Thank you, Atlas. Commanding it was. And again, we end up in a 2-2 for the series. So, I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting Game 3, to say the least. But I want to preface this whole conversation with the fact that I actually didn't dislike Team 8's composition here with the Katarina pick. As wild as it was, I felt that it was a pretty strong comp.
Yeah, I actually really like the Katarina pick. Back in, like, Season 3, when Voyboy used to play the Katarina top with Warmogs, and it was really strong, that was, like, a prevalent pick. And I kind of was hoping I'd see something along those lines of Katarina coming out strong. But they just had a really bad start to the game when Ryze was they didn't freeze bottom, and Ryze was free farming while Katarina was laning, like, 2v1 or with Nunu, and she wasn't getting the farm she needed.
Yeah, I need some help because I'm on the desk with a bunch of crazy people who think that was a good comp for them to run. Katarina top, are you guys serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
No
100%.
way. They had no way to actually start those fights off. Like, their jungler, Nunu, he was objective focused, and they were looking for the team fights, but it was very obvious that Complexity wanted to just split push around.
Yeah, I didn't really think the Katarina comp was that bad. I mean, you look at the 4, and it's like Nunu, Trist, Ori, and Nami. It's like, wow, that's a great fourth. What are they going to fill that out with? Like, what tank are they going to fill it out with? Oh, a Katarina. Whoa. Like, you would never look at those 4 champions and be like, Katarina would fill this comp greatly. But you know what? You can still pull it off. And I'm glad Cali Trolls has the gall to try to pull something off like that. And I think it could have worked, but they just, from the beginning, like, straight from the gates, they just had a really bad start.
Yeah, I do agree that, of course, it was out of left field, the Katarina pick. At first glance, you assume maybe a Lulu in the top lane to support that Tristana, you know, pretty classic protect the carry composition, something like that, or anything that has some kind of engage. But the thing about the Katarina, and I'm with Zion on the fact that they needed to get farm onto Katarina properly. And they also failed at keeping farm off of the Ryze. And those two things in combination with each other definitely hurt them later in the game. There are also a few other factors, some delayed teleports, not capitalizing on a couple fights that they could have taken, things like that to get some kills onto the right people.
Yeah, we're not moving on from this team comp point yet. I want to just nail this home really quickly. In the jungle, I really think Porpoise Pops should have gone on Nocturne. Nocturne slapped the ball on him. You have some way to engage these team fights because all Complexity had to do was disengage. Morgana, they had so many ways to keep them at an arm's distance so that they couldn't start the fight. Nunu's going to start the fight by just wobbling up to you guys, and then you see him coming. And then everybody else on that team just couldn't start the fight off 100%. They were relying on Nami to really start off. It's not the way to do it.
Yeah, in regards to the team comp, definitely, like, they needed some engage. Maybe if they're adamant on the Katarina pick, they could have ran the Nocturne. They just needed something to go in, and they didn't really have that with the Katarina. If maybe they had a Mundo top instead of a Katarina, they didn't have to force the issue because they'd have Tristana and Ori to siege, and they wouldn't need to engage so hard. They could just look for more sieges. But no, they picked the Katarina, so they were looking for that team fight. And Complexity had the split push, but they had no answer to it. Zed got a first blood on Ori, and that's just huge.
Yeah, it's not that there weren't other options in the top lane. I totally agree with the issue of no engage, but
you said you like the comp. I'm calling you out on this.
No, but I do because I still like the composition. I'll tell you why. Because Morgana is the only person on that team that can stop a Katarina ult. So again, it comes down to being in the position in the mid game to actually effectively use the Katarina ult, which he couldn't do because he was so underfarmed and so weak that he could be insta-gibbed by Zed, right? Things like that, so that he, Ryze could even burst him out at times. Corki was an issue. And so when you can't effectively use the Katarina, who, like, hey, she was going to get a full channel ult off every single time unless Morgana ulted Katarina prior to the engage and had the proc go.
Yeah. Oh, fine. Fine.
Zion first, you next.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. The few windows she had, like, she completely, like, ruined it. And I think she had a good chance. Like, the fight bottom and then all those 1v1s against Zed, she wasn't using her hourglass. She was hourglassing too early. Like, Cali Trolls wasn't playing at his best.
Let's go into that fight bottom that he just mentioned, and then I'll let you finish out your points, Irene. And I'll actually let you talk through this.
No, we're gonna give it to him.
To Zion? All right.
He wants it.
All right, 16 minutes into the game, we're going to the bot lane. This is a pretty big fight for Complexity in terms of gold infusion. I'm going to let you just take it away here.
All right, so right here it just starts out basically a 3v3 fight between Nami and Trista running away from the Morgana. And then, the teleport comes in. It's 3v3, Morgana, Ryze, Zed. And then everything, it's looking pretty grim. Like, Maple Street looks like he's going to die instantly. Still no teleport from Katarina. Triple tidal wave. That's like, okay, that's that's every Katarina's dream. 3 low members that you can get the reset off of. She teleports too late, goes on the Morgana, gets exhausted, and then just dies to Rise. If she had went on either of the carries, she would have been able to get the 2-man ulti off and possibly get the reset that could have changed the game.
Yeah. So my point earlier that I wanted to touch on was you were talking about how the Katarina, they lane swapped on him and denied him farm. If there's a Katarina playing top, that's what you do as a professional team, is that you lane swap on her. You're not going to allow her to get that free farm. It's pretty standard to do that. If somebody's going to pick, a really strange top laner, you want to lane swap on it because you know they have a bad 2-on-1.
Yeah, but that being said, first item back picked up a needlessly large rod.
Yeah.
It's not like Katarina was starved for damage. The issue that we're illustrating here is that they didn't execute the Katarina properly. That teleport down to the bot lane.
It should have been early.
If you were looking at the minimap during that replay, literally from the moment of the engage, she was actually below her blue buff on the minimap, and the minion wave was all the way up at the top of the lane. She was literally doing nothing. If she had that entire 10 seconds to teleport in, make something of the fight. And at that point, Nunu had already left the fight, so it actually would have been a 4v3, right? There's a lot of factors there. And that was, honestly, in my opinion, the point where the game swung.
Yeah.
Because now you've given power to Rise Zed. The split pushers, you split 1-3-1, you split 4-1, any way you want to chop it up. Then you have the issue of no engage, right? Yeah. Because even when you do find the fights where you say, this is our chance to get back into the game, you don't have a way to get into it. And so in that sense, I agree. Nocturne would have been a much better choice because they did find a couple occasions where they could pick someone off, but they didn't have a way to get into it.
Yeah, I completely agree that that's the point that it turned around, and also the fact that they misplayed the comp, but I also think it was a bad comp in general that's kind of gimmicky and has only one thing. It's very one-dimensional. We want to team fight you, and if you split push on it, it's very easily pulled apart.
I think there's one statistic that's very telling of this whole series. This game, Game 4, Complexity had 100% objective control. In the previous, every previous game, like the first 2 games, 10 out of 11 objectives, Dragons and Barons, all gone to teammate. And finally, Complexity is starting to gain control of the objectives. They're grabbing the Dragons, they're grabbing the Barons, they're getting the early leads, they're having good early game plans, and teammate really needs to step back and say, hey, what made us win? And it was when Calitrolls was playing that Maokai, he had those engages. He could initiate and really force the team in good positions. And I think they really need to get Calitrolls back in an initiating position, because if he's the one making the shots, he looks really good when he's initiating. And looked a little shaky on Malphite, but when he was that tanky Maokai, he really got his team in a good position to win.
All right, do we feel that we've been on the topic of team comps this whole time, so I'm going to finish off this conversation on the topic of team comps. We've already discussed Calitrolls. He did perform better on those engaged champions. Is that enough to deal with this split push that Complexity seems to have landed on? They've had success. I have to imagine that they're going to go back towards something like that. Can a Maokai pick or some other kind of engaged top lane solve that problem?
Well, Complexity has been banning away Gragas, Alistar, Maokai from them, just all 3 top laners. And once again, we're going to see Team 8 on red side. And if they stick to their bans, which have been Syndra, Ziggs, and Nidalee, that's going to leave Tristana open for Robert as number 1. And then Calitrolls is going to have to fall back on something. There's Dr. Mundo kind of available. But I feel like the team comp here, they really want to save it for a last pick, counter pick here. But there's going to be a lot of bad things coming into this champion select for Team 8.
All right, team comps hotly debated here on the analyst desk, but we'll see what the teams decide to come up with. Both teams are fighting for their careers, and it all comes down to a single game. When we come back, Team 8 and Complexity duke it out for a spot in the LCS. Don't go anywhere.
Time to get Penta, guys. Penta kid.
From behind, though, the resets could come in. We'll see whether Katarina can make this one work. Oh, my goodness, that Deathload is only barely stopped. Oh, there's the Empire play. Robert actually takes a lot of damage. The Tidal Wave not going to do anything, but there's the Deathmark on a Maple Crate. Broly does so much damage. The exhaust, though, he trades 1 for 1. That's going to be Nami picking up a kill. There's the Deathmark onto Calitrolls there as well. Forced to use that flash. There's the Ignite as well. Oh, there's the Deathmark actually onto Calitrolls to see whether Broly can make this one work. Oh, there it is. Managed to clear these out. Look at that. There's the Deathload is coming through. Deathmark has come down. Oh, my goodness. What?